And you know what I find a synchronicity in words? I was actually at Walmart on my way back waiting for my dad to get out of Walmart because I bought my phone card. And I was standing right, looking straight up in the sun right next to the vehicle, by the hood. And I'm like looking like straight up at it. And I kind of like, I don't like open my eyes or whatever, but when I kind of do to kind of get that sun, I'm like, wow, that's bright or whatever. And there's a couple of kids walking with his mom. The mom said, yeah, it was dark yesterday for half the day. It was dark for half the day yesterday. She said it exactly like that. It was dark for half the day yesterday. And she could have said it was gloomy for half the day yesterday. It was cloudy, It was shitty. But she said dark for half the day. And that morning, not half of my morning, kind of about half, it was dark. And it got sunny for the rest of the day. But spiritually, it felt that way, how it, transitioned. So it's symbolic, and that girl never even had to say anything. And every time that happens, immediately the word dark or certain words will stand up and trigger something from past experience or the future prior thought process of whatever's going on. And it guides you. And the thing is that I wanted to say that because that was another thing that it didn't seem like a big deal, but God's talking to me through this, and I want to do the right thing. I want to be where I'm at now because I'm feeling so much better than what I did before, and it really freaking helps. You know what I mean? That new things popped up in my reality in a way, and that helped because, and there were certain things I needed to do. That's why there was a block. But now that I got this laid out, I don't really need to do much podcast videos or this and that. I got to take care of certain things and stuff, and on that scale of things, and then when I'm sitting good with that, then I can just do that, so then I don't have to think about the other, as much, because that honestly was getting to me in a way, but I'm over that shit. But yeah, I'm glad everybody's happy today. It's just that if people are just more happy on a daily basis now, I think that they'll start doing the right things that are in their will. Like everybody else that decided to do things for the betterment of mankind rather than just fall into the normal mundane jobs that just build up the concrete foundation of what we have to deal with. Because we see everybody else doing it, that's why we're doing it. See, it's hard to break out of, but the only way that they don't break out of it is because they're still getting dragged back into it, which when you're fully out of it to see that what it is, for that time and space, we believe that is real, which it is real. But when we don't see that for a very long time, we start to doubt which we knew what was real back then, or from past live experiences as well. Because the faith is strong, but when it's diminished and broken down, the faith in general, it turns into hope. Because hoping something happens outside of, and faith is that basically the same thing, but faith is realizing that it's going to be okay. Hope is that it's hoping to be okay because your faith is running out. That's the difference between hope and faith. Faith is something eternal, and when you start hoping, you don't have faith. It's more like, that's why you use them words when you're feeling certain ways. And it's because of our psyche, of our, certain categories which in our brain, there's certain feelings, categories which trigger inside of our brain. Them words that trigger certain categories inside of our brain of our feeling that represents it. That's why we use certain words to represent certain things in certain situations. Even on a subconscious level of not even being in a pattern of this or that, but when them patterns come up in different factions of itself, you have different factions of yourself to be in the pattern of. So it's because of them, whatever degrees that you're on, will be how much faith you have with, because, honestly, certain people do get energy from the dark, and I don't. And when I get energy from the light, it increases me of who I am. And that song, I got to tell you, to be totally honest, it's basically my soul feeling all the bad shit, and I want it to be gone, basically. You know what I mean? So when that was amplified in my soul, that actually hurt my vessel. It was hurting the inside of my body when I was doing that. And it felt like I was running out of energy too halfway through when I was doing that. And it like sends like weird shivers through my body in a way. And I didn't like that. But after that was released, you know, a whole different feeling came over me. Because there was such a long time which I felt within me that it had this pissed offness that the world needed to see, because I was saying I gave myself up to myself. I did all this. I want to bring everything out to the forefront. And that one aspect that I couldn't get to because it's not really me. It's just what this world did to me, right? And it's hard for me to express that because I have no way to get that fully out. And when I finally did, then that was locked into place in that time-space reality, which I did do that. So I moved on from that, of which my soul felt like it needed to do. And that's why it was kept on nitpicking at me for this longest time until I did it. And now, it's Monday today, and everything's like different when I woke up. You know, I must have did something in the dream world, because I did a meditation last night, and there was communication, you know, between light beings on Earth here. And I know some of them. And I was actually talking with them. You know, it's common every once in a while at night I would do that. Depends on, you know, all the things I did in a day, whether I was paying attention to it or not. But that's why it's so crucial to actually do pay attention to it too when you feel like there is no other road, because that's when your real stuff comes through, where you take it more seriously than just a podcast video. But a podcast video, yes, we take seriously, and we know the truth in it, but when you're getting talked to by other people and stuff like this in a thing, you can actually just open up and talk. It's just like texting somebody, you know? It's not like you're watching somebody else and trying to, you know what I mean? It's actual communication which fixes things. And that's why podcast, good informational bank to put out there to be solid and ground, right? But that real healing comes in a collective communication to resolve itself too. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's all I wanted to say. Oh yeah, my charger. I left at my dad's, and it's about to die, so I'm not going to post this today, and I was planning on hanging out with somebody today, but they're busy right now, and I'm fine with that. I'm just glad that the rest of the world, you know, is happy. That's what I'm freaking happy about. It seems that way, like certain, energetic fluctuations between certain, you know, the DNA between people, you know, certain ones are similar and matches. Well, it's certain types of energy grid connections that are made that you hold that function, and then if that function actually brings the full function of the mundaneness, because that function will override mundaneness of the lower thought form of itself, right? And that's why when the truth that they weren't seeing gets revealed, that's what freaking really happens. That's what I was trying to do. And really, the devil didn't want me to expose itself to it, because then it loses in a way, because it was trying to not have that realness there for anybody to see. It was trying to pretend to be the love and light the whole time and create all this hellish like fucking shit. And then, in a way, spiritually, in this place, is spiritually connected to the other place. So that's why in the dream world, what happened last night was my meditation last night, and what I was doing, and what everybody else was doing, of course, too, because we're interconnected, right? And then something happened here on Earth, and then that is the biggest scale of, like, you know, that we gotta, like, hold this now. We gotta, like, nurture what this is, you know what I mean, and roll along through it, so then things can actually happen for what we wanted, of what we're all talking about for the longest time. Because that's what it is, you know, and it gets to these degrees, and yes, it takes a long time, and it's a lot of things you got to do, not just physically, you know what I mean, it's the energetic thing that has to make sense, because otherwise, if we have that physicality and we put these people in there, they don't know how to do that of what the standard is for something peaceful of that nature, and if they're not in it, then that will just shift back and it'll flop back, and the whole process of what mankind kind of slipped into to begin with will happen again. And how, delicate this is, how delicate we all are, how delicate I am. When I'm affected, I am sensitive to things that I do get affected by. So then that affects me, and it affects everything else. And then, you know what I mean? So that's why we got to take on this, but not too much. That's why I was feeling for everybody, like, trying not to deal with my shit, you know what I mean? I'm just trying to, basically, the people that are, what do they call that? Hard-hearted, and they just grind, and beat their head against the wall, work. And totally into that. That's what I was mad about, in a way, that they creating their own reality for their next generation to be caught up into something stupid. That's the whole reason why that offended me. So, it's because of the fact that, we're all spiritual from that dimension of degrees. So, I think I just explained what I wanted to explain. But yeah, we take more of what we are and put things down to where this can change now that we have the power within ourselves to do it. And if everybody has that power, they'll now do that in way different ways. Like, instead of building a house just like that, build a house that is what I'm saying. You guys can. Like, if I do it first, there's other people that have built that before, that's already existed. But I'm saying a society like that in general. Start getting our standards straight upon what we want. And trust me, people that grow up into that society is not going to think that this is a woo-woo thing, because they're going to be living in that. And the differences between what this is this is not all bad, but you can see what happens when there's a drastic population increase in what we're going to do to the planet because of the whole time, though. It was because of that we felt like we needed something better. We needed something more fancier to look at. It's a little different outside of the box, right? It doesn't have to be fancy to live, as long as we're all right with ourselves and have our hearts with us. We won't want the mundaneness of physicality. When I went to Oregon in 2016 or 17, I think it was 2016, I felt like cut off from any physicality, like the physicality in general, without the feeling within it, had no feeling to my mind. Like that item that you can't feel or have anything within it, I felt like that item was completely like worthless in my mind. And I realized I was going through cycles in multidimensionalness as I was going through that. And I'm seeing this through time, that other people will realize that stuff at their own time, but it's because of the degrees which we hold value into things, and to realize that human nature holds value into many things that are outside of the control, and the control was holding a value outside of your willingness. That's why everybody was trying to rebel it, but at the same time, by rebelling it, trying to obey it, by not thinking that we can just step outside of it, see? And that was the whole like thing that I was trying to express, that we can just do this. It's not something that we need to ask for or be approved of. See, and that was the whole situation, which is basically kind of taking place on a global level. Their understanding.